How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Old. This is from 2021 and is written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan and is based on a graphic novel called The Sandcastle. This movie stars Gael Garcia Bernal, and so yeah, this movie just came out a bit ago and is the newest M. Night Shyamalan film. So of course I had to go see it, and M. Night Shyamalan's one of those directors that whenever he puts out something new, because of his past work, I'm always curious as to what it will be, but it won't always necessarily be a hit. M. Night Shyamalan had The Sixth Sense, which is one of the best horror movies ever made, you know, definitely top 50. Sixth Sense was great. You also had pretty good ones like Signs and Unbreakable. He went through a big slump, but then a little bit ago, The Visit and Split, it seemed like he was back, and then Glass came along, which was in many ways underwhelming, especially the ending of it, and it had me a little worried, and now we're here with Old, the first one after Glass, the first one after the movie that made me worried about him, and sadly, this is not the Visit, this isn't Split, this isn't the new great M. Night Shyamalan we were hoping would still be around. This is much more in line with The Happening. Now, I want to get this out of the way, is I want to say my true feelings on every movie, positive or negative, but I try not to go overtly positive or overtly negative. I'm not a comedy teardown channel, and it's not, you know, not what I'm looking to do to make fun of movies. But all that being said, there's really not much positive to say about this one, and I left this movie wondering what happened. Like, when I'm watching the movie, I was watching it and just all these bizarre little things that happened, and I was watching it and I thought to myself, I was like, what happened in the movie that none of this got, you know, picked up on by anyone that was working on it, and it got to us like this? It was just a sense of bafflement. It was a feeling I hadn't felt since the first time I watched Doris Wishman's A Night to Dismember. This really weird and baffled feeling where I'm like, how did this get past so many people? And like M. Night Shyamalan, I really love his movies, and I hope he's doing okay, but I don't know what happened here, you know? Like, I loved The Sixth Sense, and his other movies, a lot of them are pretty good, but I don't know if he's lost it. I don't know if he's not trying. I'm kind of concerned for him. I'm like, what happened with this one? How did it go so off the rails? And again, I'm not a comedy teardown channel, but I will try my best to analyze what went wrong. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the plot. Now, I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the movie's about. So we open up, this family is going to a resort, a really nice island resort, where they're greeted personally by the owner when they pull up in the bus, and there's a whole bunch of employees. They offer them drinks right off the bat. Really nice, tailor-made, they're going to take care of you. And yes, kind of ironic this movie got released after we were all locked up in our houses for so long, and this is a movie about going on a nice vacation. A little ironic. But they get to the hotel, everything's really nice. It's a mom, a dad, and 2 kids, and we find out that the mom and dad are separating, but in addition to all this, the mom has cancer, so separating and maybe dying. So it's a lot, and they don't know how to tell their kids, so this is kind of like, hey, a big hoorah, a nice final good memory before things are about to go pretty terribly. Anyway, the young boy is friends with, he just meets the owner's nephew or something, and the two become really good friends. They run around, and the owner shows up and says, hey, I like you. I want to take your family and give you access to a very exclusive beach we don't invite everybody to. So they get driven there in a bus by M. Night Shyamalan himself, a fun cameo. The director's literally taking these characters to their doom. They drive him to the beach. M. Night Shyamalan drops him off, but won't go to the beach himself, and says he has other things that he really has to do, so they all have to walk to the beach by themselves. And the beach is a really nice looking beach. You get really tall cliff faces surrounding most of it, and there's only one little entrance, one little cave that goes in and out of this place. Other than that, the cliffs surround the entire beach, and there's nice water in front of them, but with some pretty big waves. So, other than that cave exit, they're pretty much stuck here, so we'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, they hang out on the beach for a while, when you get to meet some of the other people, you know, a psychologist lady, a doctor guy, a rap star by the name of Mid-Size Sedan. That's a weird one. But anyway, they hang out for a while, and the dead body of a lady washes up on the beach, and they're like, oh wow, this is bad, we got to go. But whenever they try to leave, they get like a massive pressure in their brain. They can't take it, and they stumble backwards. Now, it's cut a little weird, where it almost makes it seem like it's pushing them backwards, but whenever people talk about it, they just say they stumbled backwards. And so they can't get out this cave because of the big headaches. And there's, of course, no cell phone reception. And that's when, you know, they don't know what to do about the dead body. But hey, the resort should pick them up at 5, right? Well, they don't know what to do about the dead body, but then the kids, the little kids, 2 of them are like 6, they start to get a little bigger. And in one case, they look away from them for a bit, come back to the kids, and the kids are significantly bigger and taller, and they don't know what's going on at first, and they start to realize that everyone on this beach is aging. 30 minutes on the beach is the equivalent of a year outside of the beach, and everybody's aging and getting older, and if they don't find a way off this beach, they're all gonna die. So it's a pretty unique and crazy concept, and I like the concept. I just wish it was executed a lot better, and we gotta go into the specific things about this movie that didn't work, and I think that's where I'll start off first. This is a good concept, but the execution isn't perfect. They really insist that it's a direct 30 minutes equals a year, or something like that. But when you see what's actually in the movie, it really isn't. The kids go through like 4 actors, you know, to show them growing up. So it's not a stage, you know, you'd expect to see a bunch of different intermediate parts, but the kids will go through their 4 actors at, you know, every so often. So it's not really like you see them age, it's just every now and then they pop into a different character. And if they had said, oh, you randomly age really fast at given points, that would have explained it a lot better. But like once the kid turns into the kid from Hereditary, once he gets to be that guy, he's that guy most of the movie, you know. So you see him turn into his mid-20s or so, and he's stuck there. If every 30 minutes is an hour, you should see later on him grow up, but he's basically stuck in his mid-20s until he finally transitions into his final form, and you don't get to see that. It's more gradual popping between ages and not a scale going up 30 minutes is a year. It's just every now and then he'll turn into a different actor. Now that's the kids. The adults are even worse because, you know, like the people that play the parents, most of these people are the same pretty much the whole time. It's like, oh, 30 minutes is a year, but the most you'll see is by the end of the movie they'll get some wrinkles. They don't look really, really old. Now the hair, they try to explain the hair and the nails aren't changing as fast, like you don't step on this beach and instantly get a big old beard, because those are essentially dead cells and they work differently. But because of this explanation, you don't get the gray hair, which is the easiest way to indicate age. But on top of that, without getting the gray hair, you don't see the age, but also, oh, they're dead cells, that's why this isn't happening. Yet when someone actually dies on the beach, they turn into a skeleton. So that didn't really make much sense. Oh, the hair's dead cells, it doesn't age. Okay, that person is dead, so they wouldn't age any further, right? No, they turn into a skeleton. So that logically didn't make sense. And, like, I volunteered back in high school for a semester at an assisted living facility. And I know, like, when you get old, you know, with all due respect, it isn't a good process. Like, you see some people really, really old, and you can tell they're barely hanging on. You don't get that in this movie. You don't get the real tear of aging and time passing, because the most you get is a few wrinkles. Like, you look at some people, they get really old, and you get to see what the horror that time does to their bodies. And in this, it's just wrinkles. So you don't really get the concept of this movie. They keep telling you they're aging, but you don't really see it. You know, you see people go through a few key forms, but it's not really like you get the sense that they're aging really fast if they weren't telling you this, because they don't show you the gradual progression going to an extreme. They just show the kids going through 4 actors and the adults getting wrinkles, and every now and then you'll get something like a guy with dementia will get worse, or a guy all of a sudden needs glasses but he doesn't have them, so now he can't see. You get a few things like that, but it really doesn't push the concept. And also, you know, you have to ask, you know, if these people, they know that they're led here by the hotel to die, but the hotel really doesn't want to go on the grounds because they don't want to die. Like, couldn't they at the very least think about the group that's coming after them? Like, you think if the hotel was trapping you on this beach but they wouldn't want to go there, you'd put like a big sign or something up like, beach dangerous, turn around, or at least have the courtesy of getting as close to the barrier as you can and dying so that the people, when they go there, see a freaking skeleton. But they don't think of the next group. Granted, maybe the hotel has some way to reset this without actually going on the beach. I don't know, but it's kind of weird. They didn't think how to save the next group, and that did bug me. But anyway, let's move on. Another big problem is the characters. This is one of those movies where everybody gets one basic character trait. You know, you're the doctor with dementia, you're the therapist lady, you're the kind of goofy dad that really does care about his wife, you know. Like, the dad is the one I care about the most, but he's just alright, you know. I didn't really feel like I related to any of these characters, and the acting is all weird, you know, and it felt like, at times, 2 different things. It either felt like bad early video game voice acting, you know, I hope this isn't Chris's blood, you know, that type of stuff, or it felt like a weird improv skit. Now, improv can get away with weird improv acting because they're comedy, and it's also within the proper setting, but you get this lady, she goes up to this doctor and goes, I need you to come see my kids because there's something wrong with them. But I want you to know I'm not crazy because I'm a museum curator. Like, that really sounds like an improv line where you have to kind of like awkwardly put out more exposition to make the jokes work. But it is this weird, unnatural line. And a lot of lines and a lot of ways these things come off, it just seems odd and unnatural, almost like aliens are replicating humans. And I don't know what it is, how they can get a consistently awkward acting from almost everybody. It's so weird that the acting is this odd and consistently odd with everybody. Like, there's a cop that's at the beginning and the end of the movie. He's not there that much, yet he's probably the best actor in the whole thing because everyone else is weird. And when we talk about characters, I guess we got to get into the kids. The kids start off really annoying, and I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of complaining about kids like a lot of people on the internet are, but these kids are really annoying, running around, going up to people, what's your name and what's your occupation? And then, you know, running away and just annoying everybody. Why, you said we'd be there by now, you know, and it's this weird, you know, robot kid always in your face, and I really didn't like the kids. But then you get problems when they grow up. they are still mentally 6 years old, which makes sense but causes a lot of problems because you get their grown-up actors who are teenagers or older, and they all have to act like they're 6, which, I mean, it makes sense, but there's no way to do this where it doesn't come across as pretty awkward. And especially, and it's in the trailer, there's a brief scene where the young girl, who is at least 18 in fast-forward shifting island age, but is mentally only 6, she gets pregnant without really knowing what happened. She just says, "Oh yeah, we were having fun and now I got fat." And she doesn't know. And this is a really messed up and creepy situation, and it just really feels more awkward than creepy. If the movie had set up that it was a deep, dark, and creepy movie, then I guess this tonally would have fit, but it was just awkward. And I guess, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the tone. The tone is the biggest thing, the directing in this movie. Like, I love what Shyamalan did with some of his other films, but this movie doesn't have a good tone. You have some atmosphere where the beach looks nice, and the cinematography of the nice beach looks nice. It's a nice beach. That's easy. But that's not the tone that we should be getting. We shouldn't be getting the tone of, why isn't this a nice beach, which is pretty much what we get. This should be anxious, nervous. You're going to die in one day by getting really old really quick. This should have a really intense tone. This should be really dark. This should be one of those where you're anxious and on the edge of your seat and you're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna die. My whole life is flashing before my eyes. Even if we live, we'll get out of here with several years of our life stolen. This is deep. This is dark. This is scary. And the tone that this movie goes for is, hey, we're on a beach. You don't get any of that feeling in the atmosphere, in the cinematography. Like, the cinematography is good cinematography of a nice beach, but I don't feel unnerved looking at it, and that's really what the concept of the movie is. And then, on top of directing, there are a few awkward scenes that just don't come across. The first time when the kids age into their new set of actors, it's clearly not showing the kid's face, and you can do this in some artistic ways where, like, the audience doesn't know. You know, granted, we all saw the trailer, we know what's about to happen, but it's so obvious that they're not showing us the kids' faces for a reason. It just seems weird. And then there's another one later on where they have to do an impromptu surgery, and they have problems because time goes fast, so all your wounds heal up fast. So they have to hold the wound open during this scene, but that's way too much on their special effects budget. So you get a perspective from the lying on the ground, and everyone's leaning over, and they're all describing what happens, and it feels like an old-timey radio show. Oh, the skin's trying to close up around our fingers. What's that? Is that what we're operating for? And it's just really obvious that they're doing it this way because they didn't have the budget. And again, it just feels weird and awkward. And the last thing I really need to talk about, the villains. It's clearly the hotel set them up and put them down here. The beach is even locked off by this big fence just to get to the pathway. It's obvious the hotel is the villains, and you see people watching from up on top of the cliffs, and they don't use the villains enough. Ideally, when you talk about the villain's plot, people would be wondering. It'd be this big mystery, and you dole out little pieces. You know, eventually they find that they sort of have something in common, but they don't ever go, I bet that's why the villains chose us, and they don't ever think about it. And instead they're just like, huh, the villains are watching us. And then, when the movie's over, big exposition dump explaining the whole villain's plot right away. But when they explain the plot, and no spoilers, it's kind of dumb because the thing they're trying to do, you, I guess, could do a little bit of it from a distance, but the fact that you can't get down and look at these people more directly, the idea that they're trying to do this specific thing, I'm like, I don't know how well you could do this thing, granted the parameters, and granted that you can't get close to them, but I don't want to spoil that. You know, it's just weird and dumb, and yeah, they don't ever really, like, they talk about trying to get out, but it's basically just going and doing, you know, a little island, you know, it's like, okay, what's a fun concept? Maybe they have to do surgery. What's a fun concept? Maybe the doctor gets dementia, and he just can't think about, like, he's always trying to guess a movie. You know, he's like, what's that movie with Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando? And he just starts thinking about that the whole time. It's not focused, you know, you should be focused. Who are the villains? How do we get out of here? But it's just random island, you know, aging, you know, it's like, what if we had this scenario? What if she was pregnant? And they just flip through a few scenarios, but it's like a bunch of people doing weird improv theater on the beach. It's really not great. Anyway, yeah, it's just awkward and doesn't work. As far as recommendations, like, I know the M. Night Shyamalan purist, the big fans, myself included, are gonna watch it just to see what he's up to. So I don't really have to say for that, but the only crowd of people that I could really recommend this to are the fans that like watching movies ironically. Like, if you liked watching The Happening and laughing at it, this is really the only crowd I can recommend this to. I honestly don't know what happened. This is among M. Night Shyamalan's worst movies, and I was really hoping with The Visit, with Split, that he was getting back on track, getting back on his feet. And I want to see M. Night Shyamalan make more good movies, but something happened here, and I don't know what. It is an interesting concept, and because of that, if I do find a copy of the Sandcastle comic book, I'll definitely pick it up. But that being said, a quick aside for an already pretty long video. Books, when there's a movie based on a book, the book industry is usually pretty good about getting a reprint out on store shelves. So it'll usually, like, have the cover of the movie. It's like, hey, you see the movie, here you can read the book. The comic book industry, I don't know what is going on with them, but there's a few movies based on comic books, like The Sandcastle. Do they reprint the comic books? Not as often. Like, I should go, hey, there's this new movie based on a comic book. I should be able to go ride and buy it. But I was just at my comic book shop. They didn't have a copy of this. Like, there should be reprints of the comic everywhere. I don't know what's up. The comic book industry really needs to get on their toes about that. But I'll see if I can find it. I'll check a few other places. I am kind of curious where the source material came from, because there is a good concept there. Anyway, I've rambled on quite a bit. It's really not great. Ironic movie fans, have fun with it. M. Night Shyamalan fans who want to see what he's up to, sadly, this is more The Happening than The Sixth Sense. But anyway, I've talked for quite a bit already. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You're really helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist at the bottom. This should be my 2021 movie playlist, so if you're curious as to my thoughts on other recent movies, those will be in there as well. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. I'll put the relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.